Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the historic Martinsville Henry County Heritage Center and Museum, owned by the Martinsville Henry County Historical Society. It gets kind of confusing sometimes. I'm Virginia King, and I'm on the board here. And I'm pleased to introduce the speaker today. She happens to be my daughter, Virginia King. Cindy King Edgerton. She's been very involved with the Garden Club of Virginia, has been president in the past, and helps in many different ways. Cindy was born in Virginia, and we came to Martinsville in 1964. She's very interested in our history and other history too. We're very interested in learning more about the Garden Club of Virginia. It's been a very important organization in our state and in the country that a lot of people aren't aware of. So I hope you enjoy her talk.
Thank you. In the May of 1920, 8 garden clubs were invited by the president of the James River Garden Club to attend a conference in Richmond. On that day, a state federation of garden clubs, known as the Garden Club of Virginia, was formed. And the 8 founding clubs were Warrington Garden Club, the Albemarle Garden Club, the Garden Club of Norfolk, the James River Garden Club, Fuqua and Loudon Garden Club, the Dolly Madison Garden Club, the Augusta Garden Club, and our very neighbor, the Garden Club of Danville. Martinsville Garden Club became a member in 1924. Later that year was the first meeting of the Board of Governors, and the meeting reflects, the minutes of the meeting reflects the issues of the times, and I find it a little humorous. One member suggested we advocate the creation of a sentiment for good roads to speed their construction. Another one urged warfare against plant pests, stressing the Japanese beetle. We lost that one. We lost that war. Another one drew attention to the beauty of our native flowers, shrubs, trees, and evergreens, urging their use in the adornment of our grounds and the prevention of their destruction by vandals. And one member spoke on the billboard nuisance, the obnoxious signs so disfiguring our landscape. Here is a video summarizing the history and what it has become today.
Thank you. This is how high-tech used to look.
She turned it off.
Yeah.
I turned it off. In this video, look for a photo of Ferry Stone Park receiving some money and our very own historic courthouse made the cut.
We are the Garden Club of Virginia, gatherers of nature's bounty, guardians of the environment, and restorers of historic gardens. We represent the volunteer spirit of a 100-year-old tradition begun by women whose shared vision became a powerful movement for the greater good. In 1920, 8 garden clubs created a statewide alliance with a broad vision to protect Virginia's natural beauty. Through civic engagement, they galvanized a movement to improve the landscape for all. They gave rise to the club's mission to celebrate the beauty of the land, conserve the gifts of nature, and challenge future generations to build on this heritage. lives through nature. Educational programs and projects in horticulture, floral and botanical design, conservation, restoration, and photography open up a world of exploration. We are in your communities, planting, pollinating, conserving, and beautifying. You will find us in the public parks, open fields, mountain streams and tidal wetlands, and in playgrounds and classrooms, sharing the joy of nature's gifts. Restoring and maintaining historic public landscapes and gardens is one of the many ways the Garden Club of Virginia preserves and protects Virginia's heritage. Our commitment to the highest standards of historical, architectural, and horticultural accuracy is reflected in our work across the Commonwealth and at many national historic landmarks. From the gardens at the Governor's Executive Mansion to the stone mill of a Revolutionary War general, from Thomas Jefferson's Monticello to the colonial-era Bruton Parish Church, we have reawakened spaces to help tell the living story of Virginia. These restoration projects are made possible by proceeds from our signature Historic Garden Week tours that span the state. Since 1929, Historic Garden Week has showcased private homes and gardens throughout Virginia. As America's largest open house, our tours draw enthusiasts from across the country to visit gracious gardens and homes, adorned with spectacular flower arrangements created by our members. Historic Garden Week funds also provide for annual fellowships in landscape architecture to help expand the body of knowledge in planning and design that's so critical to restoration. Nature inspires us. We capture her essence through photography, we explore the science of horticulture, and we gather her bounty to create floral and botanical art. As our members learn and grow, they share knowledge through educational workshops, juried flower shows, field trips, and more to foster a love of nature in all her many art forms. A century ago, we fought roadside and billboard blight, supported legislation to ban the destruction of plant life on public lands, and encouraged formation of the state park system. Today, our advocacy remains strong. Clean air and water, open space, scenic beauty, and the preservation of native plants and their habitats continue at the heart of our values in our second century of service. And to a new generation of advocates, the Garden Club of Virginia sponsors graduate-level research fellowships in land conservation and environmental science. In Virginia, we walk the same paths as history makers of long ago. The Garden Club of Virginia works to preserve those paths and their natural settings for generations to come. We are stewards of Virginia's past, present, and future. We invite you to learn how you can help.
Now I'm going to go over just some of the details that they mentioned in the video. And before you leave today, my goal is that you understand how encompassing the Garden Club of Virginia is, what all they're involved with. All right. Hello? Okay. Starting off with the Historic Garden Week. This year, it's April 15th through the 22nd, 8 days, Saturday to Saturday. Having lived in Virginia most of my life, I assumed every state had a Historic Garden Week, and it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized it's pretty unique to Virginia. Visitors tour inspired private landscapes, public gardens, and historic houses, sites across Virginia, enjoying our beautiful state at the peak of spring. In addition, over 1,000 worldwide class floor arrangements created by Garden Club of Virginia members will enhance tour properties. This beloved statewide event will include 30 unique tours organized and hosted by 48 member clubs located from the foothills of the Shenandoah Valley all the way to the beaches of the Tidewater. The beginning of Historic Garden Week dates back to 1927 when a flower show organized by the Garden Club of Virginia raised an impressive $7,000 to save some of the trees planted by Thomas Jefferson on the lawn of Monticello. Today, the impact of the Historic Garden Week over 4 decades has brought in over $425 million to our state's economy. It's the largest ongoing tourism volunteer endeavor in the state, representing efforts of 3,300 volunteers. And it's the nation's oldest and largest statewide home and garden tour. So where do all these funds go? What do we do with this money? Here are some of the works. Landscape restoration, which was mentioned in the video. Since the first restoration in 1929 at Kenmore, a Revolutionary War era mansion that is now a museum in Fredericksburg, the Garden Club of Virginia has used proceeds to restore and preserve nearly 50 projects completed to date. Knowledgeable gardeners at each restored location are responsible for ongoing maintenance, are in close contact with the Garden Club of Virginia and the Garden Club of Virginia landscape architect. Each garden is open to the public, and that is a requirement to become a recipient of these funds. Some of these, this tests your history knowledge. So some of the Founding Fathers' homes are on the, have been projects. Bacon Castle in Surrey, Virginia. What's it known for? Why is it famous? Does anybody know?
Bacon's Rebellion?
Yeah. And what was Bacon's Rebellion?
I watched the YouTube video of it, but it was a long time ago. I can't remember.
I think it was one of the first rebellions for, a precursor to the Revolutionary War. Mount Vernon, what's it famous for? Yeah, home of George Washington. And the Garden Club of Virginia, they preserved its front lawn canopy and then added some understory of native shrubs. Monticello, what's it famous for? And gardens were restored by the Garden Club of Virginia in 1927, 1938, 1991, and 2016. We obviously love Monticello. Poplar Forest. Thomas Jefferson Summer Home, yes. They did a carriage turnaround restored a carriage turnaround in front of the home. Montpelier.
That's another president's home.
Madison?
Yes, the home of James Madison. Now, the DuPont family bought that house in 1901 and added a formal garden, and the Garden Club of Virginia restored that garden and wall in the 1990s. Stratford Hall.
That's the Lee family.
Yeah, the childhood home of Robert E. Lee, and they refurbished a second terrace of the East Garden. Colleges have also been part of the restoration projects. Hollins University, Sweetbriar, University of Virginia, Washington and Lee, and recently the Revelry Garden designed by Charles Gillette of William and Mary. Now, Charles Gillette designed what other local garden?
Across the street.
Stoneleigh Estate. Yep, Charles. He also did the governor's mansion, and he did a lot of beautiful historic gardens in the area. But to give you an example, that the Garden Club of Virginia we're just not planting a few flowers there. This is what was involved with the Revelry Garden at William and Mary. They installed a looping, geometrically executed and precisely graded brick wall that weaved together to provide a path through the garden and in between the buildings. They created a central feature as a pair of custom designed metal arbors with branches that will soon be shaded by yellow climbing roses. New shade trees were to expand the Baldwin Memorial Collection of woody species selected in consultation with the Conservatory of Botanical Collections and the Associate Director of Gardens and Grounds, and they preserved the existing much-loved mulberry tree in its place in honor in front of Jefferson Hall. Other recent restoration projects include an entrance walkway at Kenmore. These are private homes, and the first restoration which was the first restoration project, but they also did it again recently, and the Enchanted Garden at the Poe Museum in Richmond. Now, amongst all these famous homes and colleges, our very own historic Henry County Courthouse is a recipient of these funds. GCV doesn't just look for gardens, they must be submitted. So how did our courthouse become a recipient? Virginia?
Several times our home, Hillcroft, was on the tour, the Garden Club tours. And one time that they gave me this book as a gift. And looking through it, I saw that there was the old Portsmouth Courthouse was one of their restorations. And I thought, well, if they restored that one, maybe they would consider restoring ours. We really had more land around ours than they did. So I inquired about it to the president of the local garden club, and she inquired and found out that there were certain requirements. At the time, we were in the process of restoring the building, and one of the requirements is that the structure be already restored, so we had to wait until that was finished. Also, as Cindy said, it has to be open to the public, and it has to be a significant location. So after we finished our restoration, we inquired again and found out that we could be considered. So they did accept it and started working on the plans in 2012. And it took about 3 years to develop the plans and get everything ready. You want to turn? Oh, we've already got it on. This is how it looked before 1976, and I'm not sure exactly how long before. But I remember we lived out in the county and came into town every once in a while, but I don't remember even seeing the courthouse. So a group of ladies took on the project of restoring the grounds for the bicentennial, which was 1976. And you can see, skip back a minute. You can see originally the cannons were here in front of the Confederate monument. Then the next one. So one thing they did was that they moved the cannons back in front of every door, facing the door. They joke about, makes you a little nervous when you come out the door and see these cannons headed for you. And they put the flagpoles there near the building. You can see they put brick walks in and lawn and took out a lot of those big trees. So this was after 1976. One of the design projects that the landscape architect designed was to move the cannons out toward the road, and also previously they were on just bricks that had been constructed to hold the cannons. But the landscape architect, Will Riley, he researched and found out what kind of carriage would have held those cannons. And those are Rodman cannons from Fort McHenry. So he had the carriages constructed, and this was moving the cannons, which apparently was quite a job. Unfortunately, we were out of town and didn't get to watch it, but they successfully did it. So you want to go to the next one. So this is what we ended up with. You can see the cannons up in front. They moved the flagpoles up in front. They made a brick plaza in front so it could be used for events. Have benches there for the public to use. And they were the land in front, which this doesn't show, you know, there's a driveway that goes across in front. That belongs to the city, and that little island belongs to the city. But the city agreed to work with the garden club and incorporate those spaces into the project. So we were thankful for that. So they gave us this nice plaque that we have outside, and we're very appreciative of all that they've done. And they continue to help us. We had an issue with some of the bricks on the steps, and they hired a very talented brick mason to come and redo those. And more recently, they have made agreement with a tree trimming company, Bartlett, to come and trim our trees and do what needs to be done to the trees this time of year. So I hope you enjoy our plaza. We certainly do.
And thanks to Virginia, we're right up there with Monticello and Mount Vernon. Another issue that the Garden Club in Virginia is involved in is the Virginia State Parks. And the Garden Club of Virginia celebrated its 2020 centennial. It was supposed to be this amazing big celebration, and we all know why that didn't happen. But as part of the centennial, they created a $500,000 grant to Virginia State Parks projects and programs. The Garden Club of Virginia supports legislative issues, and they're involved in the initiative to address climate change and recurrent flooding. They promote clean energy. They conserve and protect our natural resources. They support efforts to improve water quality by supporting managing polluted runoffs to protect Virginia's waterways. They support legislative action to enhance locality authorities to capitalize on the water quality benefits of trees. They support legislative action to strengthen land conservation. They still support our vigil over the placement and replacement of billboards, including the LED advertising. They support environmental education. They support the ban of uranium mining. They encourage legislative civic planting, and they support legislation to limit single-use plastics and to ban balloon releases. And that's one of the reasons I'm kind of a stickler about not using single-use plastic at One Starling or events that I help do here at the courthouse. Another area that the Garden Club of Virginia involved in is horticulture and artistic design. We learn about flower arranging and horticulture through flower shows and workshops, and photography has recently been added to the shows and workshops. Now on Wednesday during our garden tour, you will see my artistic design in the kitchen of the Mazurek home. I copied a magazine. They also are involved in research fellowships that that are designed to provide college and graduate level students with an opportunity to study topics relating to conservation, environmental affairs, and landscape architect. Students work under the guidance of professionals in their chosen field of study and provide valuable research findings upon completion of their term. Research fellows and landscape architect have built an impressive library of historic garden documents since 1996 when the fellowship program was initiated. Several years ago, Reynolds Homestead was a recipient of one of these fellows, and last year I went to a meeting in Richmond, and they have these young people do their project presentation during the meetings, and she spoke about solar farms and about in her research she showed that if you plant pollinator plants underneath the panels or between the panels, how more efficient the panels are, the increase of pollinators. It really was quite impressive. I know that solar panels can be an aesthetic blight on the land, but if we would embrace the idea of planting pollinators between them, that will help in a lot of different areas. They also give awards and grants. Matter of fact, our paw path at the Smith River Sports Complex was recently a winner of the Commonwealth Award, which is an annual grant to promote projects in the interests of conservation, beautification, horticulture, preservation, and education. The two names, Commonwealth, it's two words here, was chosen to describe the wealth that is common to all Virginians, and obviously a play on our nickname as well, our state's nickname. We've recently, the two garden clubs, Martinsville Garden Club and the Garden Study Club, have applied for the Bessie Bocock Carter Conservation Award, which is a grant we're hoping that will help us create a pollinator garden surrounding the bridge over the wet area that was built recently by one of our local Eagle Scouts. I hope you will go down the paw path. It really is a lovely asset to our community, and we're working to enhance it even more. We'll find out this fall if we're a recipient of that award. Now, closer to home, Martinsville Garden Club. We didn't join the Garden Club of Virginia until 27, but we were founded in 1923, and we just celebrated our 100-year gala. And during the gala, we gave a presentation of what all the Garden Club has done in the community per decade. So in 1923 was a prosperous time in Martinsville, a thriving community of 5,000 people. There were 2 20-bed hospitals, 6 churches, 4 hotels, a few paved streets, and a bi-weekly newspaper, and a telephone system. Work was progressing on a public library and a public school system. But amid all this progress, little had been done to enhance or preserve the natural beauty of our locality. So in April 1923, a few women, led by Mrs. J.D. Glenn, got together and organized the Martinsville Garden Club, the first in Henry County. The purpose of the club was to promote interest in and knowledge of gardening, to stimulate interest in civic planting, and to aid to the protection of our native trees, shrubs, wildflowers, and birds. So many people think the Martinsville Garden Club at all is about arranging and social events, but it just shows you how much more we do. The next year of 1924 saw Martinsville Club as a member of the Garden Club of Virginia, and in 1927 roadside planting of dogwood and redbud began on the highway between Martinsville and Danville. In the 30s, the Martinsville Garden Club undertook landscaping at the Henry County Courthouse in 1933. The entrance to Oakwood Cemetery was planted and handsome gates were installed. In 1934, Mr. John Smith, an honorary member, deeded Trillium Cove to the club. Our little perennial preserve became a wildflower preserve and bird sanctuary. A catalog of all the plants and trees were compiled. In the 40s, our Trillium Cove was increased by half an acre due to Mr. Smith's generosity. Level space allowed for a picnic area to be established. During the war years, the grounds of the local schools were landscaped. 2 matching magnolia trees were placed at the entrance of Malva High in memory of the students who made this a supreme sacrifice in World War II. One of those magnolias still exists. Go by it if you notice it. And in 1947, work began on the ground of a new hospital, and the Interclub Council of Garden Clubs was formed to avoid duplication of efforts. In 1950, it began with the countywide campaign to make Martinsville beautiful. Rural community dumps were established, and an educational program on litter bugs began. Excuse me. In 1957, the club developed landscaping around the memorial plaque on Memorial Boulevard, which involved grading the site and planting 20 hollies of 4 varieties. Do y'all know where that is? You pass by it all day long. I didn't know about it either until it had to be pointed out to me. So on Memorial Boulevard, when it was dedicated, the name Memorial Boulevard in honor of our veterans is when this memorial, and there's a stone, it's a stone that talks about the dedication and then landscaped around it. So it is, if you're heading south on 220 Business, aka Memorial Boulevard, it's on the right. It's right across from where Moorfield Cleaners used to be. Okay? I promise you, you've passed it a million times. Next time, notice it. And we've recently tried to, a lot of our own club members didn't know anything about it until recently it was discovered, and we've tried to keep it cleaned up. In the 70s, the Martinsville Garden Club started the decade by hosting the Garden Club Board of Governors. During that decade, the Kent Valentine House became the Garden Club of Virginia headquarters, and one of our very own club members, aka Virginia King, donated a 200-year-old dining room table, and it's still there in that house. The square based on a drawing of a daffodil by Buck Carter was completed by Charlene White for the needlepoint rug at the Kent Valentine House. So Martinsville is in Richmond. In 1980s, Dot Montgomery of the Martinsville Garden Club was elected president of the Garden Club of Virginia, which is a really, really big deal. And Martinsville Garden Club sponsored the annual Daffodil Show at the Patrick Henry Community College in 1986 and 1987. In 1990s, Robert Walker was awarded the Massey Medal in 1990, Martinsville Garden Club's project of landscaping at the Blue Ridge Regional Library was a finalist for the Commonwealth Award. It's a garden in the back of the library. In the 2000s, the 81st annual meeting at the Garden Club of Virginia was hosted by the Martinsville Garden Club. Following the board members, attendees were invited to cocktails at the Martinsville Speedway and box lunches in the press box. We had some of these state presidents get driven around the track, and it was quite a treat. A garden-themed dinner concluded the meeting, and Martinsville Garden Club develops an online presence in 2000s, and then we also became a 501c status in that decade. In the 2010s, the Board of Governors returns to Martinsville. In 2015, the meeting site was at the new College Institute, and the Garden Club of Virginia dedicated the restoration project of the historic county courthouse. That was part of our meeting. In 2018, the Bessie Pocock Carter Conservation Award was given to the Martinsville Garden Club and the Garden Study Club for work on the Paul Path, as I mentioned earlier. In 2020 and today, the Rose Show has been held at Piedmont Arts for several years with the Patrick Henry Rose Society. The Garden Club of Virginia used to have its own Rose Show, and they discontinued it, so to keep it alive, our local club joined in with the Patrick Henry Rose Society, and we have a show every year at Piedmont Arts. In the 2020s, we were also designated as a Bee City, and for the first time since our beloved Dot Montgomery, Martinsville's home to another Garden Club of Virginia president, Debbie Lewis, who is busy as we speak, touring, doing the other tours throughout the state. The Martinsville Garden Club has made significant strides toward our future by focusing our resources and energy toward lasting impact on our community and serving as guardians of our native trees, shrubs, wildflowers, and wildlife. Educating others in gardening and arranging will always be our love, but showcasing the beauty of our community and conserving our natural resources will be our legacy. Thank you. I do have tickets. So this, the local tour this year is Wednesday, and they really are some amazing homes. There's 4 homes and a garden, and even at the parking area next to the art garden, Pickle Nash is going to be there, and Hamlet Vineyards is going to be there, and some donut truck is going to be there. It's going to be a really cool event. But I have tickets if you're interested. They're $25 a ticket. It gets you into all those places, including the garden. I'm not available to take credit card, but if you want some, you can go online and purchase it, and they're also available at Piedmont Arts. And whether you buy a ticket or not, here's the brochure for our local tour. This comes out every year. This is all the tours in Virginia, and they're located throughout. I think you've got some here.
Around the desk, which are.
Yeah, and so, of course, the chapter on Martinsville. And then, but these brochures talk about the 4 homes that are in the tour and other things you can see while you're here. So, any questions?
No, I just want for you to share who we make the check out to.
Oh, Historic Garden Week.
You mentioned something about a Trillium Cove?
Yes. So what I understand, I think people actually went out to look for this cove because they've been forgotten about over the years. But it is on the south side. The Smith River runs on the south side. It's along the river. There's some land that's not developed. It's in the woods there, but there is a trillium. And trillium apparently is a very rare flowering species, and we have a whole lot of it there. Yes?
For the tickets that you have for sale, those are the same as you get through the garden tour website?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the presentation that you guys did with the dates, is that available anywhere? Did you mention a lot of things that are locally still available?
The what? I'm sorry.
The dates and the presentation, the stuff that you've gone through. I'd love to see like the magnolia, the hollies, the codes.
Yeah, so, like I said, there's one magnolia tree left. It's if you're facing the old high school, it's on the left. And yes, definitely drive by, and after you see it, you'll notice it every time. It's just one of these little secrets you don't even know about. And yes, it's still landscaped. And that's one of the problems is the landscape had really overgrown the plaque, the big cement, looks like a tombstone, the big cement. And so it was hard to see, but we cleared it up and did some planting of flowers to showcase it a little more. But you're focused going down the road, it's easy to miss.
Right. So the things that you remember saying, is that a book somewhere, or is that, I don't know, I can't visualize the places that you're speaking of, so I think
Yeah, no, there's not a book.
Transcript or copy?
Oh, sure.
Well, it's gonna be on Facebook, or you.
We will put this presentation on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and you can get there just by going to YouTube and searching for Martinsville Henry County Historical Society. Takes me about a week to get it up, but by the end we will have this talk. Anybody can access. We've been doing it for several years now, so we've got a lot of talks on the internet.
will that include a PDF of the talking points that you had?
I certainly can. I can send it to whomever. I created this thing this morning at 6, so let me clean it up a little bit. They really, y'all, understand that several months ago, they really wanted someone from Garden Club of Virginia to make this presentation, but everyone's really busy with Historic Garden Week. It's a really big deal. And when I was talking about all the legislative issues, these women are a powerful force in our state government. They really are about getting things done and not crossing them. And so these aren't ladies in white gloves drinking tea. Yes.
The gates that you mentioned at Oakwood, are they still there?
I think so.
I mean, I know that there's gates there, I don't know if they're.
Those are the ones, yeah. And that's another, if you haven't been to Oakwood Cemetery, which growing up here, I didn't go until I started going there for obvious reasons, but it's a beautiful old cemetery right here in our town, but it's kind of hidden. And people do take walks. I have a friend who walks her dog every afternoon there. I mean, it is a garden in itself. It is lovely.
What is the process for getting, like a historic place restored? Do you have to find an architect first to?
No, they have their own architect. It's very specific, and they do a lot of research. And so, as Virginia said, she submitted. So they don't go looking for projects; they get submitted, and it has to be open to the public. It can't be your backyard. And like I said, it had to be a piece of property that was already restored, and they had to wait for that. And one of the reasons I think we got it when we did was every year we work our tails off and spend a lot of money on Historic Garden Week, and it was about time we received some rewards for that. So, a lot gets done in the bigger cities like Richmond and Northern Virginia and the Virginia Beach area. So we were due a project here in this area, and so glad that Virginia had the foresight to do that.
I know at one time this was the farthest west of any of the garden clubs. Is that still true?
It still is. And so sometimes, we're always looking for homes and places to put on Historic Garden Week. It's a challenge, but we have, there's been talk about going out to like the Patrick County area because there's some beautiful historical sites out there that would be fun to see, but they don't have a garden club to showcase that. So maybe in the future. Yeah, we don't get a lot. All our meetings and all are in Richmond, so we're, which is centrally located, but a long ways for us, but it's worth it. I really, Virginia misspoke that I was involved in the Garden Club of Virginia. I've been involved in the Martinsville Garden Club. But being president of the Martinsville Garden Club, I got to go to state meetings, and I loved it. It was so much fun. We got personal back tours of like Mount Vernon. It's not open to the public. It really, and you're just surrounded with other women that have the same vision, all ages. And that was really my favorite part about being Martinsville Garden Club president, was hobnobbing with the other presidents and getting to see a lot of the work we do. It made me feel real special that we were part of that group.
How many ladies are in this club?
In the Martinsville Garden Club?
Yeah.
We have like 80 some. And then the garden study, so there's 2 garden clubs that are part of Garden Club of Virginia. The Garden Study Club, and there are some other, I know Bassett has a garden club, and there are some other garden clubs in the area, but the 2 that are part of Garden Club Virginia, and Garden Study Club is a little newer, and what I understand was it was at one time the auxiliary, or where the young women started off with, and then they got moved up to the garden club, the Martinsville Garden Club. But right now, they're totally separate clubs, but we do more and more together. We have more and more meetings together. We do these projects like the Paw Path together. And there is some talk about merging the 2 clubs. But like anything, there's a lot to work out if we decide to do that. But the Martinsville Garden Club has about 80, and the Garden Study Club has about 40 members. And it's like any organization. A lot of people, some people do a lot of work, some people do the minimum. Hmm?
You mentioned ladies, there's no men.
It is just, we do have honorary members like A.C. Wilson, bless his heart. His wife is very involved in the Garden Club of Virginia, and he comes all the time and helps out, and we made him an honorary member. Same with Dr. David Jones. He's done a lot, help and supports the Garden Club, the Martinsville Garden Club, and done a lot of conservation, and we've made him an honorary member. But it is locally, it is a women-only organization. I have seen at one or two men at other clubs, so I think other clubs maybe have opened it up, but there hasn't been any talk about us doing that.
I forgot to mention that the local garden club of Virginia funded and had planted the plantings in front of the wall behind here. As you came up the street, you saw this kind of ugly cement wall. And so they developed a plan and paid for it, planting all those beautiful plants. But unfortunately, they're going to have to disappear when we add the annex in the back. So if anyone wants to come and dig them up and take them home, well, you're welcome to.
And we've looked at them. They're pretty sizable to replant, is why we haven't chose to plant somewhere else. But maybe someone else has the magic touch. Just to give you more examples, that we gave money to all those planters uptown, to plant those. We gave money to the art garden. We give even to Rooster Walk. They have this garden in front of their sign. We gave money for that. So we do a lot in this community. And of course, Bee City is a big passion.
I don't think we all meet.
We meet once a month, but we don't meet in the summer.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me know if you need a brochure.